It's about that time of day again. Welcome back to your nightly newsletter, boys and girls. Joseph James here. It's Wednesday evening, November the 9th, 2016. Crude is bullish and trading at the lows of a bull wedge. E-mini S&P is also bullish and trading at last month's high, only a few points away from retesting all-time highs. Gold is bearish and trying to retest the overnight low and complete the measured move. Euro is bearish and trying to retest last month's low, but a grind break of that Euro bear channel tells those sellers to be careful. And a new addition to our nightly newsletter, the FDAX is bullish and trying to finish the measured move and prior month high this evening. Boy, I got a great newsletter for you guys tonight. Plenty of reliable, tradable opportunities setting up for tomorrow's Thursday session. We're coming out of a big, unexpected election result. We got big moves here happening today, and of course, big ranges usually mean big opportunities the following day. Get a plan for you guys tomorrow. We'll check the calendar and check the charts in a moment. Before we jump into those charts, though, I do want to remind you the only place to watch the full-length version of this video is here on our blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're not watching the video right now on our blog, if you're on our YouTube channel, not to worry. There's a link in the description of that YouTube video. The YouTube video is only a small portion of this nightly newsletter. Follow that link in the YouTube video description and join me here on the blog at Sideways Markets. While you're here, don't forget, join the mailing list. I'll send you an email every evening when our nightly newsletter goes live. Download those charts. Below the video tonight, you can download all the charts you see me using in tonight's video. Grab your free pass, upper right-hand corner. If you're not a member here at School of Trade, I got a free pass for you to come out and join me as a guest in the trade room. And of course, don't forget, if you're brand new here to SOT, we got a great frequently asked questions page that will answer all the questions you guys have most common and the who, what, where, when, and why. We are known as the industry leader in professional trading strategies. Don't forget, I'm always here standing by to answer all your questions. Don't be a stranger. Hope you guys have a great week so far. Boy, what an incredible overnight session we had. You knew things were going to get a little bit crazy last night, and they definitely did here. Very, very, just an incredible session here today across the board for all the markets we're watching this nightly newsletter. Tomorrow's a new day, another big day ahead of us tomorrow here. We're going into a holiday-shortened week. We got Friday, November the 11th is the Veterans Day holiday. We'll be celebrating all of our veterans on Friday, so please be aware of that. Make sure you mark your calendars. If you are going to plan on trading on Friday, please be aware volume will be much lower. And after a big week we've had this week, I would imagine Friday going to be a very early in, early out scenario. I'm giving you a heads up on that right now. I'm going to come back and touch on that tomorrow night on the newsletter. But again, now you know, tomorrow, again, full day tomorrow for Thursday. But Friday, of course, you'll see the electronic markets will be open. But whenever the schools are closed and the banks are closed, we know volume will be particularly light, and especially on a Friday following just a remarkably volatile week we've had ahead of, course, this U.S. election. Looking at the news here tonight on Wednesday evening, we had nothing major coming out of the overnight session here. Jumping into tomorrow at Thursday, November 10th, really all we have to work with tomorrow is that jobless claims at 8:30 and the Treasury budget at 2 p.m. Eastern time. You know, in all reality, guys, we haven't seen the jobless claims report be very much of a market mover for years. I can't even think of the last time that jobless claims moved the needle very much. Thursday morning jobless claims, that number's been manipulated for so long now. I don't think we're going to see much of a movement on the needle tomorrow. But again, it is tomorrow morning scheduled at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. The Treasury budget tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Not a huge market mover. So really, for the most part, tomorrow we expect to see some additional reaction to, of course, last night's election results and today's just wild ride. What an incredible example. Buy those dips. Boy, oh boy. Can't wait to look at that chart here in a moment. And again, don't forget that holiday, kind of a half holiday on Friday morning. So make sure you keep those lunch plans on Friday, because it's probably going to be an early in, early out on Friday morning's session. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Shall we jump in? We got crude. We got some S&P. We'll do a little bit of gold, a little bit of euro, and get a brand new market. We're adding the FDAX in by popular demand. As always, I always ask you guys for your feedback. When you give me that feedback, I listen to it. So thank you for everybody sending that feedback out to me here. Don't forget, I'm always listening to your feedback. You can always email me. My email address is jj@schooloftrade.com. And let me know how I can make this newsletter a better place to learn and earn with you guys every evening. Crude is bullish and trading at the lows of a bull wedge this evening after the bull channel failed to make a full rotation back to the highs, thus becoming a bull wedge. The bulls have control and will be looking for opportunities to buy the low of this channel, also of course, right, the high of this range at 45.13, as well as the low, right, of this wedge. So right now we're kind of at the high of the range, the low of the channel, the low of the wedge, and we know buyers will be looking for opportunities here to buy coming off this low. Targets for the bulls would back to retest the resistance at 45.85, then up to complete the measured move at 46.75. Sellers need to wait for proof, which will come after a strong move lower, holding below the low of the battle zone at 44.17 for a target going back to the low at 43.07. The very first thing I notice on this chart is the fact that obviously it's a very bull market. First thing I noticed was, well, we have a bull channel. That bull channel, though, you'll notice has failed to finish off the rotation. So with that failed rotation, we draw that trend line right across the top, and that becomes, of course, now a bull wedge. I want to buy the low of a bull wedge. I want to buy at support levels below the low of that bull wedge. Second thing I notice is that we have a strong move into a trading range. We had inventories today at 10:30, right? That's what probably, right, to be blaming of that, right? Waiting for that inventory report that came out right about here. And then, of course, beautiful example. We talked about this in real time in the trade room. Beautiful example of a trap below that range. Classic textbook setup. Bull move into a trading range. Buyers are going to attack that move below the range. And what you'll notice is that if you take the actual range, take that news that happened at 10:30 and double that news up, they went right to their news target. Now, if you're a student of mine, don't forget there's a chapter in the intermediate course where we specifically talk about how to use such as the inventory news, right, to find that double up target, which of course at 45.85. So we have a bull move into a trading range. There are two places I want to be looking for tradable opportunities when it comes to a bull trading range. One is at the low, that is the most desirable, and the second is going to be a breakout pullback right up to the high. So as you can see, we're coming right off that area as we speak. So buyers have control. They want to be buying at the low of this range, or sorry, at the low of this channel, at the low of this wedge, right? They also want to be buying on that breakout pullback above the channel, above that range high, or if we do happen to get all the way back down to low of that range again, right, they'll look for that to be more buying opportunities right at the low. As we go higher here, we have some targets waiting overhead. As of right now, the short-term target for the bulls is to get back to retest that 45.85. From there, don't forget about that trend line. We have that resistance trend line waiting overhead. And of course, don't forget about that prior month low and that measured move. That looks to be the easy target for us here, right, in the long term for tomorrow. That'll put us back up at what would then be the high of that channel, and then we look for that rotation back down and go looking to buy the lows once again. So what are buyers looking for? Right now, buyers can look for that breakout pullback on the way up to that retest of the high. Buyers can also look for, at this point now, seller failure, trying to go back below that range, right? Seller failure as the sellers try to fade. Also think about it this way too, if it does move lower here, right, moving average comes over, there'll be a few chances here for those buyers. Seller failure into breakout pullback, that's exactly what those buyers would love to be able to get their hands on tomorrow. Seller failure, right, buying back above that 45.14, then a breakout pullback, going back up to retest that high. Now, don't forget, we may end up seeing something like this tomorrow too. We may end up seeing the sellers actually able to hold this move in, and then of course seller failure, and then breakout pullback, allowing us now, right, to buy the low of that range, right? So look for that breakout pullback after we make that move down into the battle zone. What could the sellers be looking for right now, right? We know what the buyers are looking for right now. What about the sellers? What could the sellers be looking for? Well, really, there's two spots that you want to be thinking about being a seller. One's going to be up here, and two would be down right about here. Now, first of all, if we end up running, right, if these buyers finish this move and they end up running all the way back up, right, now kind of think about this scenario where we may have a chance here for the bears to catch this on the way right, back down again, right? So buyers take it, they get their objective up at that measured move, we stall out, break out, pull back, right, for that move back down again. So that's going to take some patience on the bear side. Got to wait for it to make that turn, right? What we don't want to do is try calling a top in a bull market, especially not after, right, coming out of yesterday's election. The other thing you want to be thinking about too is that as this market moves lower, I'm talking to the bears right now, as this market moves lower, you're going to see more buyers now trying to find opportunities here to buy cheap. Buying the high of the range, buying the low of the range, buying in the battle zone. It won't be until we can get and hold below that battle zone, get that moving average to join you, of course, as well, right, that we'll then be able to get some sellers, at least with enough confidence and enough open space for a target going back to retest today's lows at 43.07. Looking good there for the buyers right now. Sellers got to stay patient. The ideal scenario here would be a few attempts to go lower, allow those buyers, right, to buy at a nice discounted price. Careful of buying high, though, on that crude. You got a bunch of resistance levels waiting overhead. How about some S&P? S&P is bullish in trading at last month's high and only a few points away from retesting all-time highs. The E-mini S&P had an incredible run today with big moves in both directions, and whenever I see movement like this, I'm always going to be looking for signs of a trading range tomorrow. My focus will be to buy the low of that range as soon as we see the buyers struggle to push through these highs. Buyers need to see this move continue on strength through that previous month's high for a push up to the all-time highs and possibly a triple measured move tomorrow. We can assume that any pullback off these highs will be seen as a buying opportunity, which tells the bears to be careful trying to call a top until they see a sustained, keyword is sustained, move lower. You've got to be very careful. Whenever I see a market that looks like this, the very first thing I think about is all of those mistakes that I made early in my career, thinking it can't keep going higher here. It definitely can keep going higher. In fact, right now, I'm sure there are quite a few bulls out there that are just waiting for a pullback right now to try to get in on this market at a cheaper price. The all-time high is just a few points away here, up there at 84 3/4. We got all-time highs, round number, and possibly a big triple measured move if this thing can keep going tomorrow. That would be a lot to expect out of this market tomorrow. Whenever I see a move like this with all of this movement, this is not just a bull market, right? It started off in free fall, hit the circuit breakers, right, once they realized that one of the candidates in last night's election, it wasn't going to be a steamroller, right? It was a lot tighter than what they had predicted at the polls. And so, of course, once they realized that late last night, right, we saw this market correct off of its last weekend. If you recall, last weekend we got that news from the FBI, and of course Monday and Tuesday were very bullish. Well, they took that move back here, gave those buyers a chance, right, to buy that dip. Now, as you can see here right now, really the most important thing is this spike in channel. There's a few different ways you could look at this. You could look at this as a bull channel, right, that broke and retested. You could look at this as a bull wedge, right? It's really inconclusive right now. I think the most reliable, I think the most obvious here is a multi-tiered bull spike in channel. Now, a bull spike in channel, let's zoom in here a little bit closer here now, right? Now that we know kind of where we are here right now. A bull spike in channel, okay, again, I think that's the most reliable piece of information here. What does that tell me? Bull spike in channels tell me that everyone's already long, right? The spike that's part of a spike in channel, those spikes that go higher here, that basically tells everybody, be ready to be a buyer, right? Buy that pullback. And so if the spike doesn't get you in, the pullbacks get you in. And at this point now, everybody should be aware this is a very strong bull market. Now, what happens typically when everyone's thinking in the same direction? Correction, and that's exactly right. We saw that happen last night towards the midnight hour, right? I've been talking about that last night on last night's newsletter. Everything was so bullish yesterday afternoon, and when everybody's looking in one direction, what usually happens? Correction, and that's exactly what we got here. So right now, buyers are going to be wise to be looking for moves back to any of these areas of support. I've identified a couple areas here. Whenever we have a spike in channel, we always want to be thinking, find some of those prior areas of support, right? Find some of these prior areas of support and wait for price to pull back so we can buy it at a discount, right? When everybody knows we're bullish, it's important we don't keep trying to buy the high, right? That was buying the high was earlier on today as we were running to hit that measured move and running to hit that prior month high. Who has control? The buyers do. What's their objective? The measured move in the prior month high. We are already at the objective. Now we have to buy cheap, or we've got to see proof that this price wants to go through that.